Let me tell you something about first contact that they don't show in the movies. It's not dramatic. It's not some grand moment of universal understanding. It's basically a bureaucratic nightmare with tentacles. My name is Dr. Marcus Reeves, and I'm a xenobiologist who accidentally became the human race's most unexpected ambassador. Not because I'm diplomatic. Far from it. More because I have an uncanny ability to make alien researchers simultaneously fascinated and terrified. The Galactic Medical Consortium first discovered humanity about 3 years ago. Their initial report read like a medical horror novel. I know this because I've seen the original document, and horror is putting it mildly. Subject species humans, preliminary assessment biological anomaly recommendation extreme caution. Those were the first 3 lines, and trust me, it only got more interesting from there. The first alien medical team that studied human physiology consisted of 3 Krell-Naxian researchers. Krell-Naxians are these meticulously organized beings with translucent skin that lets you see their internal organs. Basically, walking medical textbooks with anxiety issues. Dr. Vreen, their lead researcher, contacted me after reviewing our medical records. Her initial transmission was, well, let's just say it wasn't a friendly hello. Dr. Reeves, her communication chirped, universal translators working overtime. We require immediate clarification on several impossible biological phenomena observed in human medical documentation. I leaned back in my office chair, coffee in hand. Which impossible phenomena are we discussing today? The fact that humans consider caffeine a basic food group, or our ability to survive workplace meetings? There was a momentary pause. Alien translators are not great with sarcasm. We are specifically concerned with your species' remarkable capacity for surviving conditions that would terminate 99.7% of known sentient biological entities, Dr. Vreen responded, her tone somewhere between clinical fascination and absolute terror. She proceeded to share a case file that would make most medical professionals spontaneously combust. A human patient who had survived a car crash at 60 miles per hour, simultaneously contracting 3 normally incompatible infections. Continuing to work a 12-hour shift, drinking what could only be described as industrial-strength coffee. The Krell-Naxian medical team's initial hypothesis. Humans were either a cosmic joke or some form of biological weapon. Little did they know, we were just getting started. Dr. Reeves Vreen continued, we require you to explain how your species consistently violates fundamental biological principles with such casual disregard. I took another swig of coffee. Have you met humans? Violating principles is kind of our specialty, and that, my friends, is how humanity first impressed the Galactic Medical Consortium. Not through diplomacy, not through advanced technology, but through our absolutely bonkers ability to survive scenarios that would turn other species into a mild footnote in galactic medical textbooks. Just another Tuesday for the human race. 3 months after our initial contact, I found myself aboard the Galactic Medical Research Station Epsilon 9. Imagine the most sterile environment you've ever seen, then multiply that by 1,000. Everything was so clean it made operating rooms look like garbage dumps. The invitation came with an official seal from the Galactic Medical Consortium. Urgent human biological anomaly presentation required most people would frame such an invitation. I used it as a coaster. Dr. Vreen met me at the docking bay. Her translucent skin was practically vibrating with a mix of scientific excitement and pure, unadulterated fear. Krell-Naxian body language is fascinating. When they're nervous, their internal organs do this little synchronized dance. Dr. Reeves, she started, her translator working overtime. We have prepared a comprehensive symposium to understand your unique biological configuration. I raised an eyebrow. You mean how humans can turn near-death experiences into casual anecdotes? She didn't laugh. Typical. The conference hall was a marvel of alien engineering. Holographic displays, chairs that adjusted to multiple physiological configurations, and an audience representing at least 12 different sentient species. All of them were looking at me like I was either a medical miracle or a walking biological weapon. Today, I announced, tapping the holographic projector, I'll be discussing a case that will make your internal organs do a little dance of disbelief. The case was about Jack Thompson, a construction worker from Ohio who should have been a statistic but instead became a medical legend. Jack had fallen 7 stories onto a pile of rebar. Not just fallen, impaled himself on 3 separate metal rods. Normal survival rate, 0%. Jack's survival rate, 100%, with a bonus of walking out of the hospital 3 weeks later and asking about his overtime pay. The medical scans were a masterpiece of biological improbability. The rebar had missed every major organ by millimeters. Missed them not through calculation, but through what can only be described as pure, dumb human luck. Note the trajectory I explained, zooming in on the holographic reconstruction. Any other species would have been converted into biological confetti. Jack, he got a few stitches and a stern lecture about workplace safety. The audience's collective bio-readings were going haywire. Alien medical sensors were registering confusion, disbelief, and what I can only describe as existential terror. Dr. Zara TK from the Quantum Biological Research Wing raised a tentacle. Her species communicated through bioluminescent color changes, so her current shade of panicked purple was particularly telling. How she managed to translate. Does a biological entity survive such catastrophic structural compromise? I grinned. We call it being a human. It's less a medical condition and more a lifestyle choice. The presentation continued with more impossible cases. The marathon runner who completed a race with a broken leg. The deep sea diver who survived hypothermia conditions that would freeze other species solid. The office worker who continued a conference call while having a heart attack. By the end of the presentation, the entire Galactic Medical Consortium looked like they needed a medical evaluation themselves. Dr. Vreen approached me, her internal organs doing a nervous samba. Dr. Reeves, we require further investigation. I knew exactly what was coming. Humans were about to become the most studied species in galactic medical history, and honestly, we were going to enjoy every ridiculous moment of it. The Galactic Medical Consortium wasn't satisfied with just one presentation. Oh no, they wanted a deep dive into human medical history essentially, a crash course in how our species has been giving the laws of biology the middle finger since day one. I arrived at the research facility with a massive digital archive. Think of it as humanity's greatest hits of medical impossibility. The conference hall was packed with alien researchers, each looking more bewildered than the last. Let's talk about something I like to call human medical miracles, I began, or as we humans call it, Tuesday. First up in our medical freak show, Phineas Gage, a railroad worker from 1848 who became the poster child for medical impossibility. An iron rod, we're talking a 3-foot 7-inch tamping iron shot through his skull, destroying a significant portion of his brain. Any other species would have been a cautionary tale. Gage, he survived, walked away, and became a functional member of society. The holographic display showed the rod's trajectory. Alien medical sensors were going absolutely nuts. Dr. Vreen's translucent skin turned a shade that I'm pretty sure represented pure scientific existential crisis. The human brain, I explained, is less of a precision instrument and more of a chaos management system. Next case, Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a Japanese survivor who experienced not one, but both atomic bomb detonations during World War II. Bombed in Hiroshima, survived, traveled to Nagasaki, got bombed again, and lived to tell the tale, as most species would have been vaporized. Yamaguchi. He died in 2010 at the ripe old age of 93. The alien researchers were now displaying a complex spectrum of colors that I'm pretty sure represented a mix of horror, fascination, and what might have been professional jealousy. Radiation tolerance, I quipped. We consider it a mild inconvenience. But the crown jewel of human medical resilience, the story of Alexis St. Martin. In 1822, a fur trader named St. Martin was shot in the stomach. Instead of dying, he became a living medical experiment. Dr. William Beaumont, a pioneer in gastric research, used St. Martin's permanent stomach wound to study human digestion. For years, most species would have filed a serious workplace complaint. St. Martin? He essentially became medical science's most cooperative test subject. Imagine I told the increasingly pale alien researchers, being so tough that your massive injury becomes a research opportunity. Dr. Zara TK, still a vibrant shade of panicked purple, finally spoke. These are not medical cases. These are statistical impossibilities. I grinned. We call that Tuesday. The presentation concluded with a simple message: humans don't just survive. We survive with style, with attitude, and often with a completely inappropriate sense of humor. As I walked off the stage, I heard the translation systems working overtime, converting the collective alien murmur into something resembling comprehension. Humans 1. Galactic Medical Understanding 0. Just another day in the office. After 3 months of presentations, debates, and what can only be described as scientific pearl-clutching, the Galactic Medical Consortium decided there was only one way to truly understand human physiology: direct experimentation. And because the universe has a sense of humor, they chose me as the primary test subject. The experimental facility looked like something between a high-tech medical center and a mad scientist's ultimate playground. Gleaming surfaces, impossible machines that probably had more computing power than entire planetary networks, and an array of monitoring equipment that could probably detect a gnat's sneeze from 3 galaxies away. Dr. Vreen approached me with what passed for a smile among Krell Naxians, which looked more like a mild grimace of contained panic. Dr. Reeves, she began, her translator humming with clinical precision, we have designed a series of tests to comprehensively map human biological resilience. I took a swig from my coffee thermos. Sounds fun. Will there be snacks? The first test was what they called a moderate stress simulation in alien terms. This meant conditions that would turn most species into a fine biological mist. For humans, it was basically a Tuesday morning commute. They simulated extreme atmospheric pressure changes. We're talking pressure variations that would crush a diamond, let alone a biological entity. Most species would be reduced to a thin paste. I yawned and asked if we could speed things up. Dr. Zara TK, still maintaining her signature panicked purple hue, monitored the readings. Her tentacles were trembling, and not in a good way. Your cardiovascular system is responding with impossible adaptability, she muttered. Test 2 involved radiation exposure. Not your mild dental X-ray radiation. We're talking hardcore, industrial-strength radiation that would turn most biological systems into a memory. The kind of radiation that makes Chernobyl look like a mild sunburn. I ate a protein bar during the exposure, multitasking, as humans do. The third test pushed the boundaries of medical ethics and basic common sense. They simulated simultaneous environmental challenges: extreme heat, extreme cold, low oxygen, high chemical toxicity. The kind of scenario that would make survival guides laugh hysterically. Most species would require extensive life support, Dr. Vreen noted, her internal organs doing a nervous dance. Humans appear to be inconvenienced. I scratched an itch. Is this supposed to be challenging? The final test involved what they called cellular regeneration stress. Essentially, they wanted to see how quickly humans could heal from simulated trauma. They threw everything short of complete molecular disassembly at me. The cuts healed in minutes. Bone fractures realigned themselves with remarkable speed. My body responded to each challenge like it was solving a mildly interesting puzzle. By the end of the testing sequence, the entire Galactic Medical Consortium looked like they needed medical attention themselves. Panels of alien researchers reviewed the data, their translation systems working overtime to process the sheer improbability of human biological responses. Dr. Vreen approached me, her typically composed demeanor slightly frayed. Dr. Reeves, your species is either a medical miracle or a cosmic joke. I grinned and finished my coffee. Why not both? The experiments concluded with one universal truth: humans are not just a species. We're a walking, talking biological exception that laughs in the face of medical probability. Just another day for humanity. Science isn't always about dramatic eureka moments. Sometimes it's about a coffee-fueled accident, a half-eaten protein bar, and a researcher who's running on 3 hours of sleep and pure spite. That researcher? Me. After months of testing, the Galactic Medical Consortium was no closer to understanding human biology than when they started. We were medical enigmas wrapped in a biological question mark, served with a side of inexplicable resilience. The breakthrough came during what was supposed to be a routine genetic analysis. I was reviewing the test data from our previous experiments, coffee in one hand, ancient chocolate bar in the other, when something peculiar caught my eye. Our cellular regeneration wasn't just fast. It was fundamentally different. Most species have a linear healing process. Damage occurs, cells repair, repeat. Humans? We had what I started calling the chaos adaptation protocol. Our cells didn't just repair. They learned. They adapted. They basically treated every biological challenge like an interesting puzzle to solve. Dr. Vreen noticed my sudden stillness. For a Krell Naxian, that's basically the equivalent of a human doing a caffeine-powered happy dance. Dr. Reeves, she said, her translator capturing a note of cautious excitement, you appear to have discovered something. I turned to her, grinning. Imagine your body as the world's most chaotic problem-solving machine. That's human biology. The discovery was mind-blowing. Our cellular structure contained what I dubbed the Murphy's Law gene cluster, a genetic sequence that essentially prepared for every possible worst-case scenario. It wasn't just about survival. It was about survival with a sense of humor. Imagine a genetic code that doesn't just heal you, but looks at the damage and thinks, interesting challenge. Hold my beer. Dr. Zara TK, still maintaining her signature panicked purple hue, ran the genetic analysis multiple times. Each time, the results were the same. Impossible, improbable, quintessentially human. This genetic configuration, she stammered, it's not just adaptive. It's proactively chaotic. I nodded. We call that Tuesday. The implications were staggering. This genetic mechanism could revolutionize medical treatments across hundreds of species. Regenerative medicine, trauma recovery, adaptive immune responses. Humans had accidentally developed a biological Swiss Army knife. The Galactic Medical Consortium began reviewing the data. Alien researchers from multiple planets started requesting more information. Our little genetic discovery was about to become the hottest topic in galactic medical research. Dr. Vreen looked at me, her typically clinical demeanor replaced by something resembling awe. Your species continues to defy every known biological principle. I finished my now cold coffee and grinned. We're not a bug in the universal system. We're a feature. The breakthrough was more than just a scientific discovery. It was proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology, our diplomacy, or our ability to create complex social structures. It was our absolutely bonkers capacity to survive, adapt, and look good doing it. Just another day for the human race. If you think scientific discoveries are celebrated with dignified symposiums and polite applause, you've never seen what happens when an entire galactic medical community realizes humans might be the key to solving centuries-old biological challenges. Chaos. Pure, unfiltered chaos. The genetic revelations spread faster than a conspiracy theory on social media. Within weeks, research stations across multiple star systems were analyzing our chaos adaptation protocol. Some saw it as a medical breakthrough. Others saw it as an existential threat. The Quantum Biological Research Wing called an emergency conference. Picture the most intense scientific meeting you can imagine, then multiply that by 1,000. Alien researchers from dozens of species packed into a conference hall that looked like a cross between a medical facility and a sci-fi movie set. I was the guest of honor, which, in alien scientific circles, is roughly equivalent to being both a rock star and a potential biological weapon. Dr. Vreen took the podium first. Her presentation was a masterclass in controlled panic. The human genetic configuration, she explained, her translator working overtime, represents a biological adaptation so unprecedented that it challenges fundamental understanding of evolutionary mechanisms. Translation, we were so weird, we broke science. The political implications were massive. Some alien factions saw our genetic discovery as a potential cure for dozens of chronic diseases. Others saw it as a potential threat. Imagine finding out that a species you thought was primitive could potentially solve medical challenges that had stumped entire civilizations for millennia. Dr. Zara TK from the Quantum Biological Research Wing raised a tentacle. Her species communicated through bioluminescent color changes, and right now she was a spectacular shade of panicked purple mixed with scientific excitement. If we can isolate and understand the human chaos adaptation mechanism she proposed, we could revolutionize medical treatments for at least 17 known sentient species. The room erupted into a cacophony of translation devices and excited biological responses. Tentacles waved, crystalline communication nodes pulsed, and what I'm pretty sure was a sentient gas cloud began rapidly changing color. But not everyone was excited. The Medical Ethics Consortium, a group representing some of the most conservative medical minds in the galaxy, saw our discovery as a potential threat. They argued that our genetic configuration was too unpredictable, too chaotic to be safely studied or implemented. Humans are statistical anomalies, one particularly stuffy representative declared. Their biological configuration defies every known medical principle. I couldn't help myself. I stood up and grinned. Thank you, we try. The debate raged for days. Some saw our genetic configuration as the holy grail of medical research. Others saw it as a potential biological wildcard that could upset centuries of established medical understanding. Humanity had accidentally done what we do best: we complicated everything, simply by existing. Dr. Vreen approached me during a break, her internal organs doing what I can only describe as a nervous dance. Dr. Reeves, do you understand the magnitude of this discovery? I took a swig of coffee because of course I did. We make things interesting. It's kind of our thing. The galactic medical implications were clear. Humanity wasn't just another species in the cosmic catalogue. We were a walking, talking medical revolution. Just another Tuesday for the human race. Some people dream of peaceful scientific breakthroughs. The Galactic Medical Consortium. They decided the best way to validate our genetic discovery was to throw me into the most extreme medical scenario imaginable. Challenge accepted. The test facility was a marvel of alien engineering, a controlled environment that could simulate virtually any biological challenge known to sentient existence. Think of it as the ultimate medical obstacle course, designed to break every known rule of survival. Dr. Vreen approached with what passed for a confident smile among Krell Naxians. Dr. Reeves, we have designed the most comprehensive survival scenario in galactic medical history. I took a long swig of coffee. Sounds like a Tuesday. The scenario was a perfect storm of biological nightmares. Imagine every survival challenge compressed into a single, horrifying test. Extreme radiation levels that would turn most species into atomic confetti? Check. Atmospheric pressure variations that would crush diamonds? Absolutely. Chemical toxicity that would dissolve most protective membranes? Why not? Simultaneous thermal, gravitational, and electromagnetic stresses? Bring it on. The test chamber looked like something between a medical facility and a doomsday device. Alien researchers packed the observation deck, their monitoring equipment so advanced it could probably detect a molecular sneeze from 3 star systems away. As they initiated the test sequence, I did what any self-respecting human would do. I settled into a comfortable position and wondered if I'd packed enough snacks. The first wave of challenges hit like a cosmic sledgehammer. Radiation levels spiked to amounts that would turn most biological systems into a fine mist. My cellular structure adjusted. Not only survived, but began actively processing the radiation like it was solving a mildly interesting puzzle. Dr. Zara TK's translation device was working overtime. Impossible, she muttered. Cellular regeneration rates exceed all known biological parameters. The thermal stress test was next. We're talking temperature variations that would flash freeze and instantly incinerate most species. My body responded by creating localized micro-adaptations, essentially telling physics to take a number and wait its turn. Atmospheric pressure changes that would compress most organisms into a thin paste. I used the time to mentally compose my grocery list. He's multitasking, one alien researcher noted, sounding simultaneously impressed and terrified. The final phase combined every possible biological stress into one ultimate challenge: chemical toxicity that would dissolve protective membranes, gravitational fluctuations that would liquefy internal structures, electromagnetic interference that would scramble biological communication systems. Most species would have been reduced to a cautionary tale. Humans? We treat extreme survival like a mild inconvenience. As the test concluded, the observation deck fell silent. Alien medical sensors were going absolutely nuts, translation devices struggling to convert the sheer improbability of human survival into comprehensible data. Dr. Vreen approached, her typically composed demeanor completely shattered. Dr. Reeves, you have just demonstrated a level of biological resilience that defies every known scientific principle. I finished my now cold coffee and grinned. We call that Tuesday. The ultimate test wasn't just a validation of our genetic discovery. It was proof that humanity doesn't just survive challenges. We look them in the eye, crack a joke, and ask what's next. Just another day for the human race. They say every scientific discovery changes the world. Our discovery? It changed entire galaxies. 6 months after the ultimate test, the Galactic Medical Consortium published a landmark report. The title alone was a masterpiece of scientific understatement: Homo sapiens, a biological anomaly requiring comprehensive reevaluation. Translation: humans broke science, and we're pretty proud of it. Our chaos adaptation protocol became the most studied genetic configuration in galactic medical history. Research stations across multiple star systems began developing adaptive medical technologies based on human genetic patterns. Species that had struggled with chronic diseases for millennia suddenly found hope in our chaotic biological blueprint. Dr. Vreen, now somewhat of a celebrity in scientific circles, became the lead researcher on what they called the Human Biological Adaptation Project. Every time she looked at me, her internal organs would do this nervous little dance that I found absolutely hilarious. "We are still attempting to comprehend," she would say, her translator capturing a mix of scientific wonder and residual terror, "how a species can be simultaneously so fragile and so impossibly resilient." I'd just grin and take a swig of coffee. We call that Tuesday. The political implications were massive. Suddenly, humanity wasn't just another species in the galactic catalogue. We were a medical marvel, a biological wildcard that could potentially revolutionize medical understanding across hundreds of civilizations. Some alien governments wanted to study us. Others wanted to recruit us. A few were still trying to figure out if we were a medical miracle or a potential biological weapon. The answer, of course, was both. At a major galactic conference, I was invited to give the keynote address. Picture the most important scientific gathering in multiple star systems, with representatives from dozens of advanced civilizations. And there I was, in a slightly wrinkled shirt, coffee in hand. Humans, I told them, are not just a species. We're a walking, talking example of why the universe needs a sense of humor. The Medical Ethics Consortium tried to argue that our genetic configuration was too unpredictable to be safely studied. I watched them with the kind of smile that suggested we were just getting started. Dr. Zara TK, still maintaining her signature panicked purple hue, summarized our discovery perfectly. Humans do not follow biological rules. They negotiate with them. As I left the conference, I overheard alien researchers discussing our genetic configuration. Some were terrified, some were excited, most were thoroughly confused. Just another day for humanity. The galaxy would never be the same, and honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way. Humanity making the impossible look easy since. Well, always.